You're live.
He said he's not on yet, but it's.
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 7:01. Thank you for joining us, sir. We're going to start, I'm sorry. We're going to start roll call to my left with
Homer, City Council Member.
Dr. Joseph Ford, City Council Member.
Shelby Carsolari, City Council Member.
Ronnie Price, Mayor.
Troy Tabor, City Council Member.
Tim Berry, City Council Member.
Donna Davis, Chief Financial Officer.
Mike Roosevelt, Deputy Fire Chief.
Rick Lance, Director of Public Works and Utilities.
JT Klaus, City Attorney. I'm here with Wade Larson from Eisenhower High School in Goddard, who is shadowing me today.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Susan Renner, City Clerk.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator.
And Lance Onstott, the Assistant City Administrator, be joining us. That's tonight we will do invocation, and Ben Griffiths with Hope Community Church will lead us in this. How are you doing, sir?
Good, sir. How are you?
All right.
Let's bow our heads. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for the opportunities that you have given us to serve. Lord, when we look around this room, those places that we are, Lord, they are opportunities, Lord, that you have put in front of us. And I just pray that every day, Lord, those who serve would do it with compassion and kindness and honor and humility. Lord, that in the positions that they hold, they would be able to do it not for themselves, but for the sake of the people that they serve. Lord, I pray that as we enter this time, as decisions are made, as conversations are had, Lord, that you would gain the glory and the honor. Lord, as we read your word, we read in Psalm, Lord, that unless we build in your name, Lord, we build and toil, Lord, with no purpose. And so we pray that in all things you would be glorified. Lord, we pray for the families of those who are serving, Lord, in the time that they commit to love and to cherish our community. We just pray for grace and kindness for their families, that you would be with them and bless them. Jesus, we love you. We thank you. Amen.
Amen. Okay, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to take a minute to let everybody know that Councilman Warrington is joining us on Zoom. We had some technical difficulties, but he's with us now. How you doing, Mike?
I can hear you.
All right. Public forum. We'll open the floor for public forum. If you have some comments you'd like to make or statements, state your name, your address, and keep it short. Nobody? All right. Public forum is now closed. Acceptance of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike, can you see or just hear us?
I can only hear you for now, but I think Lance is working on video.
Okay, we'll just keep that in mind when we're, I guess, talking, if there's anything we got to present. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to.
I do have to add an agenda item for the acceptance of the
Okay.
agenda.
Sure.
Item 16.2, I would like to add an executive session for attorney-client privilege for just 5 minutes.
After, okay, 16.1, so 16.2 you're adding?
Yes.
Okay.
16. Right. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the agenda with the modifications, adding 16.2 for a 5-minute executive session at the, after 16.1. Requested at the time of the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. All right, acceptance of the agenda, right? We still need to do that?
That was it.
Okay. Citizens request Andover, 7-1, Andover Disc Golf Course, March 11th tournament, and Daniel Shea Paul will talk to us about that. How are you, Daniel?
Good, how are you?
All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have a quick request for you. March 11th is our next disc golf tournament here at Central Park. We're partnering again with Chris over at Ducks Flying Discs. It's going to be a 2-round tournament. So we're coming to you with some, ask for permission to vend at the course. There'll be a morning round and an afternoon round. And if our plans work out and we can secure a vendor, which isn't finalized, I'd like to just go ahead and get ahead of it and have your approvals on that. And I can answer any questions if you have any about that event.
There's no liquor. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I got a question. There's no beer or anything sold then at this?
No.
You know how hard it is to throw those anyway?
Yeah, I do, actually. It might straighten mine out.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the sale of goods and services, including food trucks to vend at the Andover Central Park Disc Golf Course, March 11th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I have, I guess, one question on the motion, and maybe I'm just reading it weird, but they can sell like discs and such with this motion, correct?
Sale of goods.
Goods and services, I think. would cover
Including
that,
food.
yeah.
Okay, I thought so. It's just, for me, it almost read to me, in my mind, only food could be sold, but I'm reading it wrong. It's my bad.
Do they have any, oh, Mr. Mayor, do they have any other plans, Daniel, for the rest of, were they the ones that Mike played in at the end of February? Was that their tournament as well? And then are there plans like for the rest of the year or?
We'll partner again with them for the tournament during GAD in the fall. We haven't solidified any dates in the summertime yet.
Are they happy with the turnout so far in the previous one?
Every tournament we've had has had a higher registration, and I think our max was the January one. And it had like 117 people participate in terrible weather too.
Will there be?
I think Councilmember Warrington played.
Will there be limited baskets during GAD like there was last time? It's kind of food trucks and carnival and all that neat stuff.
We had to play a couple of temporary holes there where the carnival takes over holes 10,
Okay.
11, but it's manageable.
All right. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, sorry, Mike. All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yes,
add
sir.
a point on that? So I've been to a few tournaments and I've seen several in Wichita, and none of them I've seen were over like 60 or 70 people being a part of it. So over 100 is pretty impressive.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd like to see you and Mike play maybe against each other and we can get,
Okay.
you know.
All right. Eight.
$1 a hole.
8 proclamation 8.1 severe weather preparedness week. And this time I'll read this. Whereas the severe weather and tornado season in Kansas has always been known as a potential dangerous time, historically producing property damage, injuries, and even loss of life. And whereas during the 2022 storm season, the National Weather Service office in Kansas issued almost 1,000 warnings for severe storms, including the storm that produced the destructive F3 tornado that struck the city of Andover, Kansas and surrounding rural areas. And whereas everyone is potentially at risk during the severe weather and tornado season, which reaches its peak in Kansas between March and June, and whereas the National Weather Service in conjunction with the state of Kansas and local jurisdictions will be conducting a statewide tornado drill on Tuesday, March 7th at 10 a.m., and whereas the purpose of the Severe Weather Preparedness Week is to heighten the public's understanding of the dangers associated with severe weathers and tornado. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Ronnie Price, proclaim the week of March 6th March 6th through March 10th, 2023, in the city of Andover, Kansas, as Severe Weather Preparedness Week. The tornado sirens are not. Go get your camera and take pictures. Get in the basements, please. Oh, man. Forgive me. Proclamation. 8-1, I'm sorry.
I'll take over. Item 9 is presentations from the municipal golf course. Do we have someone here from the? Yeah, we do.
Brandon
Very
Cross,
good.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Again, I'd like to, extend, Dick asked me to extend an apology, wasn't able to make it here today, so I'm filling in for him. But I did want to convey a few points of business that we've just reports to you guys. From the supplemental materials, hopefully you guys will have, the rounds in 22 were down around 10%. Revenue stayed even though for the year, due mostly to the modest price increases that we had for the 22 season. Dick had tracked that the weather adverse effect on available play days was calculated at 8% on a national scale, and probably a little bit more here in Kansas, but weather was pretty brutal for us last year for playability. We have received a new golf cart fleet, 2019 models. We've got 20 carts in now, and they're being well received by our patrons. We've enacted another modest price increase for the 23 season. In fact, I was just updating our point of sale system and website and everything with those numbers before coming here tonight. Basically, it's $1 for 9-hole greens fees and cart fees. 23, and we're still pretty well under every other golf course in the region. So let's see. Dick has been working hard and getting close to finalizing the selection for the irrigation system capital improvement project. As far as selecting a contractor, he has 3 contractors submitting bids currently. Availability's been up and down with them, and I think that's been part of a delay. So he will, says work will likely be scheduled for the spring or summer period on that first project. We're looking forward to working with the city on maintaining access to the course during the Highway 54 project when that gets finalized and commences. And as always, just wants to say thanks in appreciation of his partnership with the city and people we're working with, Rick and Daniel and everyone else. So thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I was looking at the tournament event income. It was like $6,200. I wonder if there would be a GAD potential for like a event during GAD, and you can call it, part of the GAD Greater Andover Days, thing. Since we're doing a disc golf tournament ourselves, maybe you could tack on a normal golf tournament too. I don't know. I just threw that out. I just came up with that. So
in addition to the existing GAD tournament that we have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess you already have one. I didn't realize. Wait, you never invite me. What?
You might remember we do
that.
They do that.
I'm going to go ahead and just.
Daniel
I
Shaker
think
downtown.
I think what Troy probably
You
means.
gotta admit, it's a good idea.
I have broke a window out there. I'm just saying.
abilities of Troy's level, maybe tournament.
Oh yeah, do you have like the under the lowest level? I can join that. I'm just kidding. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
AU and
Thank
Troy.
you.
In response to that, this would be a great forum if I could, Mr. Tabor. I've been working with other people and trying to increase some of that special event tournament income that we get. One thing we've thrown around as an ecumenical tournament. So if anyone has parishes or faith-based religions or something that you want to bring a team and do something like that in our course, maybe here in the next couple months, something we'll be working on setting up. So
Nice.
get with me and we'll go from there.
I do have a couple questions, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
What are the new pricing? What is the new pricing?
I don't know that I brought. I could figure up the sheet real quick. It's essentially all 9 holes. So we have different pricing for weekdays and weekends or a little bit more. All 9 holes and carts for green fees and carts went up $1. 18s went up $2. Very simple. And then our membership fees went up basically $100 across the board, which it still equivalates to around 40 rounds a year break even point for the customers, which is what we're trying
Is there I guess your membership numbers are not great. Is there a reason why the membership cost went up? I mean, doesn't seem like we're doing really well with the fee you were charging. Did you add something else to the membership, or?
From a business perspective, the membership is kind of the best deal there is, frankly. And I've had this conversation here recently because we're trying to get more people on board. Not to skirt around your question, sir, but I would say the membership count is probably not the best measurement of how to judge the course. Usually we have members that pay those amounts and they end up averaging $1.20 a round. I mean, it's kind of silly. As a business, we do better by not selling memberships.
Right.
So, otherwise, I'd have to do some analysis. We just finished up our 2023 drive here, basically prior to March 1st tomorrow. And I think we'll probably still have maybe a half a dozen stragglers come in. I would say, though, for this push here in February has probably surpassed what we did for 22. So I think it's just an effort to keep the membership fee in line with the increased rounds and golf carts and everything.
Are you guys doing last time Dick was here, I asked about a prorated membership. So if they joined in June, it wouldn't be as much as a full 1 year.
Yeah, and we're not trying to incentivize someone to wait further in the year, but I generally around September 1st begin prorating for the rest of the season to try and kind of get them in the door and increase their foot traffic, I guess, if you will.
Are you guys preparing for the spring with fertilizing and
yes,
tee box maintenance? And
yes,
because green maintenance should have happened in the fall, so tee boxes now.
Well, there'll be some more greens and aprons is I think the focus of this year right now. We've hired a gentleman from, he's a Wichita guy, but he's been helping us out on the grounds and doing pretty well there. And I think Dick is going to be a little more aggressive this season than what he has in the past, as far as maybe some chemical or fertilizer investment and stuff like that.
Okay, so the price increase is due to stuff going up, items
Inflation.
going up?
Yeah, I mean, just our employees are not tremendously well paid, and we, some of them have been with us for a while, and the way I see our relationship here, working with the city, is that we're attempting to keep that business and cash flow to make that course be self-reliant. And so that's, I think, the drive that we're just getting closer to closing that gap.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, I see a lot of trailers out there. I'm assuming most of those are from out of the city limits. Do you track the trail fees at all?
I do. Yes.
Oh,
Mr.
you do?
Mayor. There's, you said trailers? Like
Trail fee, yeah, I see them, they
For
bring
the
their golf
carts and
carts
stuff?
out, yeah.
We only have a handful of folks that bring their own carts, and especially with the new carts that we have,
Right.
everybody's been pretty well impressed with those. But we do track trail fees and income there.
They're regulars though, aren't they?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I mean, one of the guys that he's actually probably in the sub $1.20 per round category. I sold him an annual trail fee for $500 basically, and he brings his out, I would say 5 days a week. So
Yeah.
he's getting his money's worth.
All right. Any other questions? Any motion?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sleep the wheel. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve consent agenda items 10.1 through 10.5 as presented.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Green Valley, 11th edition, final plat, Justin Constantino. How are you?
Doing well. Good evening, everybody. The subject property is generally located north of US 54-400 between South Andover Road and Onewood Drive. The applicant is proposing apartment dwelling units on one lot, approximately 15.9 acres, located within parcel 16 of the Green Valley Greens final PUD plan. The preliminary PUD was amended back in March 2020 to change the zoning district classification of parcel 16 from the R4 multifamily residential district to the MXR multifamily mixed residential district. Water and sewer service for the subject property are provided by the City of Andover and will continue to be served by the City of Andover with this plat. The subject property will receive access from the existing Onewood Drive and the proposed Founders Parkway that runs east and west on the north side of the property there. The preliminary replat was approved by the Planning Commission back in November of 2021. The subdivision committee recommended that the Planning Commission approve this final plat at their March 8th, 2022 meeting, and the Planning Commission subsequently recommended approved the final plat at their March 15th, 2022 meeting. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So Justin, what makes it the final plat come a year later?
So we did have a little bit of a delay with the applicant. Basically, we were waiting on the developer's agreement as well as petitions for water, sanitary sewer, and drainage. So I know that there were a couple different changes in terms of the signee. So page 2 of the plat, I think there was a company name change. So there was a couple things going on behind the scenes that didn't necessarily involve the line work on the plat too much, but it was just a matter of getting all the paperwork in order.
So just the little semantics of the legal eagles.
Pretty much.
Thank you, sir.
I'll also remind the governing body and the public that we take this step at the point that the letters of credit are received. And so that is where there is a financial guarantee provided.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the dedications on the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition final plat as approved by the Planning Commission.
Second. I do have one question, I guess, for Justin. Everything we've talked about, height of apartments and stuff like this, is that everything still the same as what the site committee or planning committee or one of the other committees have spoken about? So
yeah.
Nothing else has changed. The apartments are still going to be what, 3-story? I think 3-story, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that is listed on the parcel 16 provisions on the preliminary PUD plan. So it lists the maximum height at 3 stories for those buildings, and then it also limits the height to 2 stories on the north and west sides of the property.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at this correctly. So thank you.
Can you refresh our memories on, for us and the public that might be listening, how many feet between the buildings and the adjacent properties that is Green Valley?
I don't know the exact distance. I know that the right-of-way itself that's proposed as part of this plat is going to be 66 feet. And then there will be significant buffering that is going to be occurring along the north side of the property line. And that preliminary PUD does get specific about the species and the types of trees that have to be placed at a certain distance along that north property line. So it's intended to be a pretty significant buffer.
Okay. I just couldn't remember. I know it's a good distance, plenty. All right, thank you.
And this does say unpaved Founders Parkway. Is that just because they're not paying to have Founders Parkway paved, or?
That's correct, yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
once these are all approved, do we know approximately when they'll break ground on this? They talked about that timeline?
My last conversation with the developer was that they intend to start on the apartment buildings yet in 2023, and the earthwork will be coordinated with our Founders Parkway improvement project.
Nice. Okay, so still started this year at least?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
Because Jenny, you said we had the letters of credit, correct? So that's holding up their, I mean, since we have those, that's already holding up their finance. I mean, they can't get any more letters of credit normally because they already have so much for this one. So they kind of need to get it moved, or, I mean, it's already being held.
It impacts their ability
Correct.
to borrow more money.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Something like that. Yes.
That's exactly what I heard.
Yeah. That's exactly what I said.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. I couldn't process it.
11-2 petitions, developer agreement and resolution of advisability. Lance Onstott will speak to us tonight.
Mr. Mayor, Council, before you tonight are three petitions. Petitions, as Justin had mentioned, for water distribution system, for drainage, and for sanitary sewer. Two of those three petitions, the sanitary sewer and the drainage, are drafted with 100% of the responsibility being that of the developer. The water distribution system petition does propose a cost share relationship between the city and the developer, which I'll explain how we got to that. But just so you know, before we get into the explanation, the benefit district or the private development will be responsible for 71.5% of that project. The city at large will be responsible for 28.5%. So per city policy, if the city makes the determination that it wishes to upsize, enlarge, widen, for whatever reason, a piece of infrastructure related to a development, then the city is responsible for that upsizing. So the development team, their engineers, are the city engineer, director of community development, director of public works and utilities, all reached a consensus that instead of an 8-inch water line, it was in the best interest of the city to upsize that to a 12-inch. So that's why you see that cost share relationship. In addition to the petition, obviously, anytime we do a subdivision like this with special assessments, you have that developer's agreement that just sets forth the relationship and specifies those financial guarantee amounts, among other things, the finding that these improvements are advisable before any work can happen. Any questions? I will attempt to answer.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I moved to accept the petitions for drainage, sanitary sewer, and water distribution system improvements, approve the developer's agreement, and adopt a resolution of advisability related to the replat of the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 11-3 work ordinance. Lance again will speak to us on this.
So again, in a special assessment financing of public improvements, this is the next procedural step that authorizes the actual construction of those sanitary sewer, water, and drainage improvements for this project.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the construction of certain internal improvements related to the replat of the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition.
Any further discussion?
I do have one question, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if it's for Lance, Jenny, or Donna. Do we have money for this? I mean, we were talking last night in our workshop about finances and making sure we're on track. Do we have money for this?
We will pay ourselves back when this is bonded.
Okay.
So yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Engineering, design, and construction phase services agreement. And Lance again will talk to us.
So at this point, we just need to design these public improvements from an engineering perspective. So as you know, the city doesn't do in-house design of infrastructure, nor do we inspect the construction to the level that we expected it to be inspected to. So Caw Valley Engineering is who prepared the plat for this property, for this project. So we typically retain the platting engineer to go into design and to inspect those improvements during construction. Again, the costs associated with the agreement for your consideration are subject to the petitions. So they'll be split according to the petitions or be paid fully by the developer, depending on which piece of infrastructure is being designed and improved or inspected. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So Lance, in regard, and maybe this is just because it's a different engineering firm that I don't normally see on here, but the developers hired Caw Valley Engineering first, and then we just retain them to follow the instructions that they already came up with?
Yes, because so the developer chooses which engineering firm and land surveying firm they wish to use to develop the plat. And typically to develop the plat, all those lines on there, you got to have a pretty good idea of what public improvements or infrastructure is going in those lines on those plat. So that's why it's the best scenario to retain the platting engineer to do the actual design of the improvements. But yes, we ultimately have say over who designs them. But on the front end, the developer is choosing which engineering firm to use.
And this would help prevent then like trees being cut down accidentally or anything like that?
Yeah, you expect to have some efficiencies and accuracy from retaining the platting engineer to do the design.
Thanks, Lance. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the agreement with Caw Valley Engineering, Wichita, Kansas for engineering, design, and construction phase services for the public improvements related to the replat of the course at Green Valley Greens 11th edition and the not to exceed amount of $84,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 12, base grant money agreement, Founder Parkway, US 54, 400 Backage Road, 12-1.
So both 12-1 and 12-2 are extremely similar agreements. They actually just replace a couple dollar amounts and project names. So I'm going to explain 12.1 and 12.2 together. And then obviously both will need their individual consideration and motions and voting, but I'll explain both. So as you guys are well aware, we were awarded $8.5 million in Building a Stronger Economy grants or base grants through the Department of Commerce around this time last year. And have been working earnestly on those two projects since. So we were awarded $4.5 million in base grant funds for what we call the Northeast Andover Growth Area Project. So this is largely the paving, so the engineering, the acquisition, engineering, design, and construction of Yorktown Parkway from Central Avenue to 13th, or just south of Butler Community College to be exact. And then we were also awarded for the Founders Parkway project, which is the backage road of US 54 400 between Allen Street, which is the extension of the Green Valley Greens 11th plat we just saw, that Founders Parkway. It connects there from the east side of that plat over to Andover Road. So this step tonight for your consideration are the official agreements with the Department of Commerce, just establishing that relationship between the city and the Department of Commerce, reiterates the amount of award that has been made, and has various stipulations in a standard form that the Department of Commerce uses, primarily that we'll only use those grant funds on the awarded project. And if you've looked in the appendices of the agreement, it's also them accepting the administrative plan that staff has developed and submitted to them. So it's just a formal relationship between the city and the Department of Commerce for both projects.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor? Oh, go ahead. Tim.
I do have one question, and it's kind of repeat. Do we have the finances for this, Donna? I mean, is this going to hurt our bond credit rating? And
So yes, the short answer is yes. These have been heavily factored into not only our immediate financing plan for this year, but our longer range financing plan. So yeah, we have been and had to be really strategic to do this in order to capitalize on these grant funds. But yes, and we've actually applied for some additional grant funds for this particular project. So short answer, yes. Longer answer, we've had to work really hard to make it work.
so I want to thank Lance and the entire staff. This is fantastic. These base grants are amazing. I get very worried about if we can finance it and how much this debt's going to hurt our credit rating or our bond rating in the long term, I guess short term and long term. So,
and to be even more specific, we are the current plan for these is issuing no debt related to the Founders Parkway project. And then we do have debt issuance planned for the Yorktown or Northeast End of Growth Area project.
thank you.
Homer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to authorize the Assistant City Administrator to sign the Kansas Department of Commerce Building a Stronger Economy base grant agreement related to the Founders Parkway US 54-400 Backage Road project.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Assistant City Administrator to sign the Kansas Department of Commerce Building a Stronger Economy base grant agreement related to the Northeast Andover Growth Area project.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. You know, this base grant money moved our city ahead years and years and years and years. This is projects that we wouldn't have been able to done in a lot of our time here in town. So it's truly amazing. And I echo what Tim said. It was a lot of hard work and still is hard work. So this is no small thing for our city. It's actually moved us up years that are just unimaginable. And I just to thank the city staff and for getting this done for us. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So, we talked a little bit last night about priorities and kind of like time. What would you say employee time invested in just one of these base grants? I mean, or could you average them? I mean, so you get the lay term when we're talking about a base grant, you're not just filling out a typical application or W-2. There's a lot of work that goes into it. How much would you say of your time, Lance and Jenny and staff's time took up cumulative? And you can just ballpark, I mean.
So like applying for the grant itself, or like currently what?
Like the work that went into, getting the application ready and writing the grant, that kind of stuff.
I'd say it probably was almost dominated my time during the writing for multiple weeks and getting it prepared. So yeah, no, sometimes I wish grant applications were just flowery words, but there's engineering estimates, exhibits, references like heavy research into comprehensive plans. I mean, it's intensive for sure. And luckily we had multiple staff that were assisting with that. So, but again, even that's probably the lightest period. I'd say since we were awarded, I think it's just, I can't confirm because the person managing the projects just walked out of the room with your director of community development. But since we're in such heavy property acquisition phase on these projects and preliminary design, like we're designing these as we speak, that I'd say at least half of his week is probably dedicated to base grants. It has been and will continue to be until probably sometime in 2024. Once we actually break ground and get under construction, the project management from the city perspective somewhat dials back because we have contractors and engineers that are out there daily, but it continues to take probably half of an FTE total to manage these.
Thanks, Lance.
All right. 13 financial services bonds, 13-1, 2023 to 2025 bonds financial service agreement. And Jennifer will speak to us about this.
I'd like to thank Councilman Berry for teeing me up really well for this item. We did talk last night about a lot of capital projects on the horizon and the need to borrow substantially to see those projects all through fruition in the short couple of years in front of us. That does take a lot of strategy because what you do in 22 impacts 23, impacts 24, and impacts 25 and many years beyond. So that's why the agreement before you tonight is for 3 years. We anticipate doing multiple bond issues over each of those years. And we've already began working with Dustin Avey with Piper Sandler and your bond counsel, JT Klaus, had multiple meetings already to begin to discuss what those bond series will look like in each of those years. We do have to have an agreement of record with the financial advisor. And because we know these are so interwoven over the next few years, we thought it prudent to go ahead and do all 3 years. There is the opportunity to get out of the agreement with 30 days written notice. So if at any point in those 3 years, we feel dissatisfaction with Piper Sandler, have no reason to suggest that at this moment in time, but I'm just giving you the provision that certainly a future governing body or this governing body, should you have the same membership but feel differently in a year, you can get out of that agreement should you feel it necessary. Be happy to answer any other questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So Jenny, I mean, you kind of teed me up for this question. But then do we have an agreement then with TWG in regards to kind of aligning them with the same kind of plans years?
Yes, you have an engagement letter with your city attorney that includes all bond counsel services, and it is ongoing, although it can be terminated at any time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the financial advisory services agreement with Piper Sandler for matters related to the issuance of bonds and notes in 2023 through 2025.
Any further questions?
Mr. Mayor, I do just have one for Jenny. I think we've been working with Piper Sandler now for 5 years. What was there a catalyst or anything to switch at that time 5 years ago?
There was a desire to try out a couple different financial advisors. And so previous city administrator had identified Piper Sandler as one to try out, if you will, for lack of a better term. It was a positive experience, felt like Dustin specifically provided good counsel, was easy to talk to. Everybody felt pretty positive about the experience. And so it was not a formal RFP process, but more of a, well, let's try a change of pace. And if we like it, we'll stick with it.
And then who works with Dusty or Dustin?
Dustin.
Who works with him the most? Would that be Donna or JT or?
Donna, JT, myself, we're all pretty much on the same emails. And then we, for fun, tag Lance and Matt on here and there too.
You guys are all happy with him as far as, outside counsel and stuff like that? Donna and everybody.
Yeah, so what you're looking for here primarily is a municipal advisor that will accomplish two things. One, have you represent the city, have the city's fiduciary responsibilities at heart, which means they won't underwrite your issues, meaning they won't buy the bonds, they won't underwrite the bonds, and they won't participate in that process. And so when you pick a municipal advisor, you're kind of excluding a bidder, quite frankly. But because you want somebody who actively solicits bids for your bonds. And this group has done a good job of that in my opinion. So the second primary thing they're performing here is that they prepare the official statement pursuant to which the bonds are offered to the public. And I think this group does a good job of that too. I can assure you that my office spends a lot of time reading and making corrections to that, as does city staff. It's important because in this agreement, it says we're responsible for the content of that document, even though they draft it. And I think this group does a good job of that and has done a good job of planning for the city and anticipating sort of the issues 2-3 years in advance before we get there. So I hope that answers your question. I don't endorse one. You can have any municipal advisor you want. I don't accept that as an endorsement. I just, since you asked the question, I think the experience from a bond counsel standpoint is that they listen, they understand the legal complications that we encounter, and this group's been pretty good about that. That's my statement.
Thanks, JT. Donna, I assume you and Jenny, you aren't like raising your hands that we shouldn't do it. So
No, working with Dustin and Clayton, one of his cohorts, is very well. I mean, we get along great. We have questions, they answer them. They answer a lot of questions throughout the year, whether it's on a specific bond issue. They're always looking to see if anything could be refinanced. They're great to work with.
Thanks, Tom.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. 14, Police Department purchase Flock Group Service Agreement Order Form. Captain Grissom will talk to us about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, what is before you is our service agreement with the Flock Group. You guys may recall we've been working on getting license plate readers here in the city for quite some time. And last year, the council adopted this purchase in the budget that was approved back in September. This is simply the service agreement that is needed so we can pay the bills, so we can get them installed and implemented and move forward with the project. This is going to allow us to place 10 cameras around town, which will add to the 2 private cameras that are already up here in the city, to allow us for investigative purposes to check for vehicles maybe leaving an area, or vehicles in the area that may be stolen, or instances such as that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I ask a couple questions? How do you know approximately how long the information, once it's scanned and stored in the database, is stored before it's destroyed, or is it ever destroyed?
That information is all kept by Flock itself, and we have to log into their database to access it. So I don't know how long they specifically keep it. I do know that there are several protocols already in place within our own policy to prevent anybody from accessing that who doesn't have a need to access it. And I know there was some concern in the past about people accessing information they shouldn't be. And I don't know if you guys saw on the news where an officer in, it was either Park City or Keachai, did exactly that. And he was charged criminally for doing that. There are safeguards in place to prevent that, not only in state law, but also within our own policy.
Do we have the ability to, and this is out of not concern of looking if a vehicle is stolen or tracking that kind of thing. It's more privacy concerns, I think. Is there a way that we can force that the information gathered cannot be used outside of our own purposes?
That is correct.
Okay,
That is
so
written
the
directly into our
FBI would
policy.
never have access to it?
To our cameras, we can grant.
To our data, not
to,
the physical.
no, to our data, no. Our data is our own data. They could have access to Flock's system if they have a similar agreement. but the data that is collected by Flock, not by us.
Okay.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, so have we not reached out to Wichita or Sedgwick County and said, hey, this car left and we're trying to find it? Is that not a true statement? And if so.
That is a true statement, yes.
Okay, so we have safeguards in place that somebody, an officer from Wichita or wherever, is not tracking somebody that they should not be tracking, or, you know, what I mean, how can we make our citizens feel safe that they're not being, what am I trying to say?
Watch my baby.
Targeted.
So for an example for you along those lines is, let's say somebody were to break into your home, and if you have a doorbell camera or something like that and they're parked in front of your house, you can say, hey, I couldn't see a tag or a suspect, but I know it was a white SUV. It looked like maybe a Chevy Trailblazer or something to that effect. We can search specifically by that type of vehicle at the cameras in the area around your home at the time frame. And our searches have to be very specific to that extent. We just can't go in there and search every car that comes in or out of the city of Andover. They have to be very specific with a very specific reason, with a case number attached to it. As to your question about officers in Wichita doing those kinds of things.
By the way, I'm not saying that they would. That's the only way I can.
No, I understand. And when we have used their cameras to track our suspects, it was us doing the searching on their cameras. It was not them searching for us. They have granted us access to share the information that their cameras collect. The best example of this was the homicide we had over on Lioba. We had a tag number because we knew very specifically which vehicle we were looking for. We searched for that tag, ultimately found it on the cameras in Wichita, which is how we ended up locating the suspect. We didn't ask Wichita to search that for us. We did that search ourselves. Now, then we broadcast the information about the vehicle because we're searching for somebody who just killed somebody. However, that broadcast happens every day regardless. When we have a suspect vehicle, we broadcast that information over the radio already. So as far as any new information getting out there to other agencies, there wouldn't be any new information put out there. We have to have very specific guidelines as to when we search the cameras.
So, and your Councilman Tabor, I was just scanning through here, 4.2 on the document. It states that Flock will actually automatically delete footage older than 30 days. Agency has 30 days to view, save, or transmit the footage before Flock deletes footage.
Okay.
So they'll keep it for 30 days.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. So a couple questions, or sorry, were you done, Troy?
I was going to pose a hypothetical, but that answered it. So it's good.
Captain, in regards to, have we increased the number of cameras from when we originally talked about this maybe 2 years ago?
I was not a part of those discussions 2 years ago, and I'm not sure what those discussions entailed. So I really can't answer that question for you because I don't know what was proposed 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that they gave you an exact number. I don't think it's grown in scope, but I do know the initial kind of conversation was to kind of get everybody comfortable, to vet out any questions, concerns, to introduce the technology. But this is the same as what was requested in the budget.
Okay. The 10 cameras.
I think they're strategic where they're at to make sure they cover what needs to be.
I thought originally for some reason it started with 6 or 9, but maybe like you said, they didn't give an exact number, and I'm just.
That was I think they applied for a grant, and I think that's what was the grant was covering, was the smaller number.
And they did also receive some funding from the Police and Fire Foundation to help offset the costs.
Perfect. And then my second question then on that, Captain, and I don't know if you can tell how often we're going to use it. I know we've used it, like you said, in the major crimes that we've had. How often does Wichita use it on a daily basis?
I can't answer how many times they use it. I do know that
would you anticipate us using it on a daily basis?
Maybe not a daily basis. We do currently use Wichita's cameras when we have incidents. I mean, as it's not too hard to figure out. Somebody commits a theft or something in Andover, they're driving west to try to blend in with everybody else. And if we have specific vehicle descriptions or whatever, we are currently using Wichita's cameras to help track people down. Those instances vary by month, anywhere from 1 or 2 per month to 10 or 12 per month currently. That being said, we only have a handful of officers with access to the system currently. Once we get the system in place here in Andover, all of our officers will have access to the system. So I would anticipate those inquiries to increase once we are specifically looking for things that have happened here in Andover.
So is the process, sorry,
Let's go ahead.
is the process you use, I mean, it's no secret. I'm very leery of the flock cameras. I'll say I was the person who was like, I'm not really comfortable with this type of technology being used. So if every officer is going to have access to it, what exactly is the audit process for you to ensure that nobody has used it?
Every keystroke in their system is recorded. Every time somebody logs in, whether I do a search or not, they record that I logged into the system. Every search that is completed is saved within their system. And like I said, every keystroke. So even if I enter a tag number and I don't search it, they can see that I entered that tag number in their system, even if I didn't execute the search. So everything is there because of those privacy concerns for people, so that when Lieutenant Shiner does his audit every month, he can see those things. And then he submits a report to the chief's office. This many searches were completed. These were the cases they were completed on. This many searches were completed for tag numbers. This many searches were completed for a specific vehicle type, which cameras were checked, the date and the time and the case number associated with them.
A badge number?
That's part of the login. Everybody's got their own unique login, so they'll know specifically who was logged into the system.
Mr. Mayor?
That's what I was trying to ask, but she did it much more eloquently. Thank you, Shelby.
Mr. Mayor? So Captain, then when we're talking about the audit process, Lieutenant Shiner doing, what is that a manual process as far as that report goes? I mean, is he manually putting it into a spreadsheet? Is it, or is it sent from Flock to him and he approaches? I guess what I'm asking as far as what's the integrity there of that manual process? And is there any kind of double check? You know, does Shiner pass it off to anybody else to double check my numbers? Because even in, you know, finances and stuff, there's issues like that. So I just, you know, I'm not against it. I think it solves crime and it's a benefit, but I do share some of the concerns that Shelby does as well. So.
Absolutely. And that report comes from Flock. He does an inquiry from this date to this date. The user's assigned to our account and everything that they did. He completes that report. It's a written report that he submits then to the chief, and the chief goes in and pulls that again from Flock to double check those numbers, to make sure that nothing was missed in there, and to make sure that we are properly auditing that system to make sure that nobody is doing anything they should not be doing. And it was actually that secondary audit that caught that officer in either Keachai or Park City. I can't remember which city he was from, but it was that secondary audit that noticed the transactions he was making.
Thank you.
So redundancy is key to the whole deal.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask another question? So we use it in I'm going to say like a reactive way where an event happens and then we use it to go do research at this point. I guess my fear is that it would become a proactive system where it would always be watching and then try to use AI or whatever to figure out if something's happening and then alert us. And that's where I get weird with it, I think, because then you could code it to do whatever you want. And so today it's reactive. I guess my question would be, do the Flock systems themselves, not that we're using this aspect of it, but do they already have a way that they could just turn it on and then suddenly it's a total spy game? And I say that not out of just jest, but there's other countries that absolutely do it today using the exact same systems. They just have the software that uses it a little differently than what we're going to use it for. So one, does Flock, do they do that within their systems? They have the ability to just flip a switch and now it's a wholly, proactively ran offensive system.
There are already some proactive measures in there. And when I say that, it's not the way that you're talking about. The proactive system that is in there, if we have a vehicle stolen here in the city of Andover, we enter that vehicle into the National Crime Information Computer that this vehicle has been stolen and it had this tag on it when it was stolen. Every 4 hours, that system updates what it calls a hot list of all of the stolen tags and vehicles in the country. Those cameras are constantly reading every vehicle that goes by them. There's no way we can't reactively go back and look at something if it didn't record it when it happened. And those cameras do check against that hot list all the time. So if we have a vehicle drive past one of those cameras that's been reported stolen in another jurisdiction, we're going to get an alert that says, hey, this stolen vehicle just passed this camera. And then our officers still have to physically find that vehicle, and then they have to verify that it's still got the correct tag on it and everything like that.
I still see that as reactive because it's still
Okay.
reacting to something that we put in for it to
reacting to
look
a crime.
for. There's a difference
Right.
though when it says something like, "Ooh, look, it looks like Troy and the mayor go have bourbon every day."
Yeah, no, there's
that's
nobody.
a weird way to put it, but that's where
That is
others are.
the
are at.
system does not work like that.
Sorry, we do like bourbon. So
The system does not work like that, and there is.
Tell it on yourself.
We cannot watch those cameras live either. They take series of photographs that then it saves when we go back to search that. They're not a live action camera like say the security cameras here in City Hall are.
So I'm totally for doing what we're doing with it. I think it's a great idea for the uses we're using it for. I would just caution that in the future, somebody not like me is going to be here and it might be, oh, let's just flip that switch. And so that's what I'm scared of, I guess, happening someday. So I hope we never get there.
Mr. Mayor, were you done, Troy?
Yeah.
So will there be, I mean, what is that switch? I mean, is that coming back to council for an ordinance, or is that the police department internally saying, oh, we want Garland to be able to find Homer after he leaves Casey's with his Diet Mountain Dew in the morning and he's getting ready to hit the school zone at 8:05. You know, who's going to flip that switch, so to speak?
Well, what I could tell you, dealing with many of our vendors, if that service were to ever come available, it's going to come with a cost, and that cost is going to be one we would have to come back to the council to get approved. So that wouldn't be something we would just be able to do on our own. That would be something the council would have to have approved.
I would go so far maybe at some point to think about a city policy that we create that says that we cannot use that type of a system in a proactive manner. It can only be used reactive. That way we don't have to worry about the police department being able to make that decision someday.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Captain, how many cities around us use this flock?
In the Wichita Metro, we're one of the few who don't. And currently, I know that there are other cities around us to the east and to the south that are working on getting agreements set up with Flock as well. But I know most of the cities in the Wichita Metro are currently using the system.
I know like Chicago even uses facial recognition and all that out in the main areas. So,
Who?
Okay. Chicago.
Oh,
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to motion to approve the services agreement, order form with Flock Group, Inc., Atlanta, Georgia, and the not to exceed amount of $52,500.
second.
Any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, I just wanted to know, are the flock cameras, are they mobile? Can you put them on like the mobile speed sign that you put out sometimes, or are they set in one spot and that's where they're mounted?
The cameras that this agreement are for are permanently mounted cameras. They are not mobile. Now, we could have them move them at a later time if we decide that they're in a bad location or if we need to move them to a new location. But the cameras, a part of this contract, are not mobile. We do have options for mobile cameras, but that would be a whole different discussion.
Thank you.
With the 400 project going through, I'm assuming that there's going to be a need to move them eventually.
That is correct. At least two of the cameras will have to be moved when that. At least four of them are going to have to be moved when that project comes through in earnest.
So we'll have probably a maintenance fee for that or request down the road?
I would assume we do. I can tell you that Flock actually owns all the equipment and performs the maintenance on the equipment. We are paying for the service.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Ford, I think that's 2028 or beyond, by the way, before we ever start that project. I mean, it's in the bucket.
It's gonna be a
today. All right.
All right.
I was going to ask, I had mentioned looking into maybe some kind of what an ordinance might look like. I guess I would ask that you would work on that, if you don't mind. If the rest of the council all also kind of agreement of see what that might look like.
I'd be curious to see what other cities are using for ordinances.
Or if I'm just conspiracy guy or something.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we can draft a policy. I want to be sure I understand it because I feel like what you're asking is to create a policy for technology that is not available. And I just want to make sure, like, I'm not trying to be facetious. It sounds like we're saying we want it to never be able to do like facial recognition, which is not what this system is.
Because it does have its certain capabilities and probably will in the future have more capabilities, and we could always look at it at that time, but I think it's really narrowing it down to it can be used for this.
Okay. It feels a little minority report, like we're saying it's not going to anticipate crime. So how can I get like a little bit better direction? Is facial recognition a concern?
So that's fair, and it's hard to just describe that, I think, here. And if I were to like reach out to other countries like in Europe and France, for example, they have cameras like 5 or 6 stationed on every corner of every place that looks at every person and where they're walking, and it tracks them forever, wherever they're going in the entire city. And they create profiles on people, and that happens today with the same system. The only difference is it's the software side of it, not the hardware side. The hardware is already pulling in all the information, the features, and we're using it for reading license plates, which actually is much better than what I was just describing. But I'm just saying those systems do exist today. They're already used today. They're used to create profiles in other places. And I'm saying it might not happen here. Maybe we'll be smarter in the US and not allow that kind of thing to happen. But I think today we don't want our citizens to be profiled and tracked and traced if they don't want us to do that to them, and they can do it on their phone already. It's already kind of doing it. You can at least turn that off as a citizen, but you wouldn't be able to turn this off. So I'd rather us have the ability to say no.
This is probably something we'll have to dig a little deeper into in a workshop to dial in what we're looking for specifically and not wanting. So
thank you.
Right.
That's right.
Appreciate the direction. We'll get to work.
Right.
It is Minority Reportish, isn't it? I'm sorry.
So yeah. So all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Brush disposal bid award 15-1. Rick's going to talk to us about this.
During the April 29th tornado response, we rapidly ran a reasonably close proximity. Our brush site got overwhelmed rather fast. We reached out. We used Rose Hills brush site and a township brush site too, but those are kind of smaller sites. But they graciously allowed us to haul there while we still could. It became very apparent pretty quickly that while we had volunteer organizations, contractors, and cities and counties here to get the most to maximize value out of their allowing us to use their equipment, people to haul the brush, to be able to haul it at a close site, close by, that we could deal with it at a later date and time. We have now entered that later date and time. We had contacted a few people about dispose of it, kind of see what they proposed and stuff. We saw that the number was going to obviously be larger than our procurement policy would allow us to do it without some sort of bid selection RFP type process. So we drafted up an RFP and posted it on our website per our procurement policy, our purchasing guidelines. We received, I should have memorize that, but quite a few proposals. And Smithy Environmental Services had the lowest proposal for $30,000, and they were going to chip it. And that proposal would be to spread it on the farm field to reclaim it into the land. I was a little concerned about that because sometimes when they chip, some of those chips are pretty big. They said they can get it down to 2 to 3 inch if we want. It's whatever size we want. We do have in the plans right around the edge of that area for a nature walking trail in the next year or so. And so we could utilize most of that chipping right there. So it'd be a very short haul and it'd be product that they had convinced us that they could get it down to a size that would work for that. And then if there's any excess, we could spread it there. It's a process that is possible to do. However, we feel like we can use most of it. I did talk to them about because that's a big pile, and I had a hard time imagining what it's going to look like in chips. And they said it's typically a 10-to-1. You reduce it down to 10%. So we feel like we can use, if not all that, nearly all that ourselves. So it would be a product that we actually would get out of it that we would be having to try to find to build that trail site later. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more happy to try to answer.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just maybe a couple of points, not necessarily questions, Rick, and I don't know who made the ultimate decision. Maybe it was Jenny the days coming after you, Rick, but I just want to say that was, I think, awesome planning as far as helping our city and helping the survivors of the tornado and us as a community get the brush out of the way, and you took into account what the round trip would have been to take it all the way to the landfill and do it on our own. So I don't know whose decision that was, but I think that was a great decision made after the fact, and I appreciate you guys doing that. I think that speaks highly. I mean, I think the storm the other week and then the proclamation today has the storm last wherewithal to think about what it would mean to add an extra 2 hour round trip, 2 hours round trip to just haul the brush away. And that also brings me to my next point that the amazing volunteers that we had, wasn't just people helping people. It was also those businesses that came to town to help us make that big pile. That's absurdly huge pile of brush. So, just thanks goes out to all those guys. And Rick, I know you've got a list, but that's really long. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I move to accept the proposal from Smythe Environmental Services, Sand Springs, Oklahoma, for the disposal of the brush site from April 29th, 2022 tornado in the not to exceed amount of $30,000.
Second.
Any further discussion or
I do have-
questions?
I do have a question. Rick, those brush piles, is it all brush? I mean, there's no construction debris in there or?
We monitored it pretty closely. I can't say there's none, but if there is any, it will be pulled out. There's got to be a very minimal amount. We did have some people, anytime you start to pile stuff somewhere, it invites a certain element to treat that as a place to dispose of stuff. If you've been out there recently, you've probably seen the amount of large tree logs that are roped all around it. We've even caught people using their truck to pull those out of the way. And another reason is we want to limit that invite for that type of activity. And two is that wasn't too worried about that stuff catching on fire when it was all green and it was raining crazy and tornado, but I wouldn't want that to sit out there too much longer. So, but any that's in there, we will pull out and dispose
I
of.
was gonna say, normally they have some sort of, asterisk on here saying that if they see any construction debris and if they run, concrete bricks through their grinder, they're going to bill us for it. Is that?
Yeah, they didn't have any in there, and because we didn't allow private people to haul there, and it was all people that understood the process. like, again, I can't say there's not a couple two bys. I'm sure there's some two bys messed up in that tree piles.
I guess I'm thinking like cinder blocks and.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Okay.
feel pretty confident there's not much in there, and they will have to pull it apart with that. We don't have even a piece of equipment that can pull that apart. It was pushed up with a larger loader than we own, and we couldn't even.
The bigger, I guess the bigger trees and stuff, do we let guys go in there and try and cut firewood out of it? I mean, instead of.
So it's
There's that
packed.
liability.
Yeah, well, that, and it's packed so tight. If you got it started going there and cutting, I'd be worried of what might happen. I think there's a lot of liability reasons for this not to do that.
Okay, it just kind of seems like a waste, but since we're redoing it, reusing it, upcycling to mulch for the paths and stuff like that. Is there a chance we can, make it open to the public to come and get truckloads of mulch or?
Sure, if we've taken what we feel like we need for our projects, then we would probably stockpile it down at Central Park anyway, just because if it's good mulch, it's hit or miss when we get that. Sometimes these contractors doing work for the utility companies go through and do a bunch of tree cutting, and we end up with truckloads of it. And then we go through pretty long periods where we don't get any, so.
Okay, perfect. Good idea.
It's a way to reuse too. I mean, environmentally, right?
If we were close to Kansas City, we'd sell.
Burn
that
gas
stuff.
to chip it and then give it back to the
All
environment,
right,
carbon neutral.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Thanks, Rick.
16-1, executive session, land acquisition KSA 75-4319B6.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move to recess into executive session for discussions relating to the acquisition of real property per KSA 754319B6. Session to include governing body, city attorney, city administrator, director of community development, and assistant city administrator, and resume an open session at 8:38.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to come out of executive session.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. We don't have him.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Development to offer Crescent LLC the just compensation to purchase property for the street right-of-way for parcel R21896 for the Yorktown Parkway Improvement Project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Development to offer Northern Equity Incorporated the just compensation to purchase property for the street right-of-way for parcel R21878 for the Yorktown Parkway Improvement Project.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Development to offer Robert J. Ain the just compensation to purchase the property for the street right-of-way for parcel R21880 for the Yorktown Parkway Improvement Project.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Development to offer Susanna E. Pratt the just compensation to purchase property for the street right-of-way for parcel R22199 for the Yorktown Parkway Improvement Project.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the Director of Community Development to offer Equiset LLC the just compensation with administrative adjustment to purchase property for the street right-of-way for parcels R23682, 23684, and 34151 for the West Founders Parkway Improvement Project.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to recess into executive session for the discussions with the city attorney per KSA 75-4319B2, session city attorney, KSA 754319-B2 to discuss matters privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Session to include government, city attorney, city administrator, and resume an open session at 8:50.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
executive session.
Shelby.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Member items, we'll start with Homer.
Thank you, sir. I just want to, in the consent agenda, I don't know who's responsible for putting it in there, but I think that Sprint letter in there, showing the support for revitalizing kind of infuses the interest in North Andover Road, kind of coincides with the new construction and it'll be cool to see if that can, get further traction, if you will. So excited about that. Rick, again, I like thinking of the mulch on site and, spread it out in the city or use it in the city. Kind of, I guess, a thought of the tornado giving back in a way, and kind of just, giving back and utilizing it in the city. So, and then congrats to our own Troy Tabor as vice chair of WAMPO. That's pretty outstanding, man. That's cool.
I appreciate
So-
you guys letting me, represent.
Yeah. I mean, get us that money, honey.
Well, I would say that Les has done a heck of a lot more in that, but I've been happy to be a piece of it. So.
It's cool. Thank you. I mean, and Les representing us all these years in WAMPO too. That's pretty cool as well. So awesome. The question was going to be for Chief Roosevelt, but I'll go ahead and ask in this. What's the word on the assistance to the fire AFG? And maybe Tim Berry knows. Did we get the grant for? Do you know?
For what?
The assistance of firefighters grant.
So I know that we have put in for a couple of grants that fall along those lines.
This was for the truck, I guess, specifically, I think.
So I don't know that anything has been awarded, but I know we do have a couple of grants that are alive.
Okay. Les, what's the good word on the NEPA study? Can we go recessed?
They did get the environmental clearance, so we're
Depressed?
open to start negotiations again.
But we will be able to go depressed as far as 54,400?
The NEPA doesn't get into that level of detail.
Yeah.
It just identifies environmental conflicts.
Okay.
That will come with the preliminary engineering for the phase 2 project in the future.
All right. Thank you. Rick, since Chas isn't here, how long has the wastewater been short 2 employees?
So the last one left, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to say about a month and a half or 2 months ago, it seems like. And then the labor position was vacant last year and we opted not to fill it at the end of the year so we could fill the GIS and asset analyst position a little bit early. And so we reopened that back up in January.
Thank you. Sonic Landscape, I know that kind of came up last city council in regards to the stones that were just put in on the landscape on Andover Road. Justin has tried reaching out to the developer person in charge of that land. We don't have any contact yet from Sonic, but just wanted to let everyone know that was not approved to be, those rocks were not approved to be put in. They just put them in. So we'll be doing what we can to get them removed. I know, Mayor, you had some concerns about that. So I just wanted to point it out that it wasn't planned. Lance, where are we on the Andover Road improvement grant? Is that for sure after that last workshop?
Yeah, and I'm going to defer to your Assistant Director of Community
You say
Development
Roosevelt?
because I think that's a very timely question.
That's a great question. Actually, it goes active tomorrow. So we have started the social media campaign for that. It's been posted on our website, and we we'll be working with the Chamber of Commerce on getting the word out on that program, the length of time that it's open, and the expansion of that program for this year beyond just Andover Road. So you may all remember this is the first year that we are going beyond just Andover Road, and I've already taken a few phone call inquiries as of today. So it is rolling.
It's all over social media.
Yeah.
I mean, the chambers pushed it in the city of Andover.
I think so far we've had a pretty positive response. So excited to see what is forthcoming.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the chamber meeting, and I usually mention stuff all the time, but nothing got traction like that did. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess the only thing sub-state this week. So go Trojans! Good luck, Coach Shetler, and let's get a dub. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
That's all.
30-minute dissertation, man.
I don't think we have time for anybody else.
Go ahead, Joe. Shelby.
No items.
So I asked Rick, I'm gonna ask you, Les, when are they gonna fix the stoplight at the schoolhouse that I don't have to get a haircut every time I stop to? There's actually, I mean, it's there at midnight on Sunday and 3 o'clock on Sunday morning. Nobody's there and you have to stop on Andover Road.
They are having some problems with the equipment. They've made a lot of adjustments, but there was a problem with one of the cameras. They've got it switched out, and our traffic operations engineer was out there tonight watching it work, and everything seems to be working well except for one camera on Allison Street. So they're making adjustments. They're getting closer.
All right, can I give them their email number so I quit getting them? It's not that bad. I noticed it on a Sunday. I thought, what in the world? There ain't nobody around. I'm sitting there.
Yeah, well, one of the cameras was misaimed
Okay.
so that it was actually picking up through traffic, thinking it was in the left turn lane, causing the through traffic to go to red.
It was a full moon, so it may have been bouncing beams off my head or something, so I don't know.
That's always a possibility.
And that's all I got. That funny, Daniel?
A question on 159th Street project.
Oh my goodness, no. Can't know 159th Street.
So I guess one question would be approximate completion date. Do we kind of know what that might be?
Completion in the fall of this year.
So this year still, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There will be a switch of the traffic sometime about June. They'll have the lanes on the west half of the road finished.
Oh, wow.
So they can jump across, tear out the east half and build the east.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. And then the second question would be about like the telephone poles. Are they going to be relocated? Is that the plan? Are they going to be buried? That would be awesome.
Not a chance of underground electric.
Too bad.
The power poles, a few have been relocated to avoid conflicts with storm sewers and sidewalks and so forth, but the majority of the poles stayed, and they're on that same alignment on the east side of the road.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
You can't imagine the complaints I've got.
I have some friends that live there. Yeah.
I used to have friends that live there. They still live there.
Well, just to manage your expectations, I mean, North Andover Road was supposed to be done at the beginning of November, I believe. So we had a little bit of delay. And as the mayor, pointed out, there's still issues with the streetlights. So
To give you an idea, Homer, of the delays we experience in that construction world today. Remember, we let that contract back in about April of last year for North Andover Road. The traffic signal subcontractor ordered all of the piping and the pole boxes for future IT cabling. We still don't have those pole boxes almost a year later. And they're telling us they may have them in April of this year.
Oh, wow.
And if anybody's listening, by the way, our officers are out there, but over 50% of the data shows that they're not writing tickets for running the stop sign. They're giving warnings for running the stop sign. If you do 2 violations, they give you a warning for the stop sign and one for going, I don't know, 51 in a construction zone, right? That's the biggest number I heard lately. And you can't go the wrong way. It's crazy. We have laws that you have to follow, but that's part of it. But our officers are not out writing tickets just to be writing tickets. They're trying to be teaching moments, correct? Tim, you have anything? to add?
So I do, Mayor asked Les about, North Andover Road. I appreciate that answer. That seems to be a hot topic for everybody. I texted Mr. Rick there and, Les, you're lucky. I don't have your phone number. I'd text you too, but that seemed to be a huge topic here in Andover in the last couple of weeks is the traffic signals, but I'm right with them. I was heading to Kansas City and it was it 3:30 in the morning? I got stopped right in front of the high school. And, not to tell on myself, so Captain, hush your mouth or shut your ears, but I ran the red light because I'm like, I'm
It
not
just
waiting here.
stayed there.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
stayed on.
not sitting it was probably it seemed like forever. I got all the way to 21st Street and I looked in the rearview mirror and it finally changed to red or changed to green. State bowling is actually Thursday. The girls, Andover Central is doing very well. Andover High state bowling team actually got #1 in regions.
Nice.
I'm going to brag a little bit. My son is actually going individually on Thursday for state bowling.
Nice.
So he got into that. Andover Central, same way with Andover High. They're in was it sub-state or reach? I don't even know how. Sub-state. They're doing something right now. They both won tonight. So both
Nice.
teams won tonight. So that pushes them even farther. So it's exciting. We have some great athletes. Along with, debate, forensics, swimming, and
Everything is swimming.
swimming just got done. We'll probably do a proclamation, probably Susan Wright for this Andover High swim team. They won state championship for their division. But yeah, Andover School District's pushing out a lot of great athletes. Unfortunately, not Eisenhower. Sorry, man. So, but Andover's doing really well. So
Take a shot at our
You
guest,
can
man.
throw something at it.
yeah, you can throw something at me, man. I have a cousin that goes there, so I can, she'll throw something at me. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
And speaking of schools, I want to thank Wheatland Elementary 3rd grade class for letting me come out and talk to them about stuff I really don't know much about, like being mayor, governing body and stuff like that. But they are going to set up and maybe opportunities for some of us. They're going to set up a Peanutville and they're going to have a mayor, a governing body and stuff like that. So there may be opportunities for us a couple of us to go out there again and
Like Charlie Brown peanuts or actual peanuts?
Peanutville.
Oh, Peanutville.
Like
Their own city.
Their own little city?
Yes,
They're
yes.
making their own rules.
Oh,
And it was pretty cool. They had some pretty good questions and it was a good time. And I think they're going to invite a couple of us back. Guess who's going to get, Justin, he's trying to duck. Woo. So I want to thank him for having me out there. It was surely a blessing for me. Anyone else? No? So what do you think? You want to be a lawyer? Come to workshop and then we'll have this discussion again.
Oh.
You're welcome anytime, by the way, Wade. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No nays. Nay.